marriage, there are many things that are bonders for a couple. Things like sex, religion, extended families, and money. All those things are meant to bond couples in a good marriage and in a good relationship. But anything that has the power to bring us together also has the power to push us apart. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about finances in marriage, that money that can be a great bonder for a couple, but can, as we know in our culture and our society, can also be an avenue for a lot of division and a lot of stress and conflict in a marriage. What we do in working with engaged couples is try to make sure they are aware of one another's financial situation before they go into this marriage. Before they're married, they should know how much debt does my future spouse have? How much savings do they have? What are their spending habits? How do they use different types of credit and other things? And how is that going to affect the way we live out our own life in marriage and the way that we deal with money? Once they get into a marriage, we try to talk about things like credit. How will you use credit cards? Are they okay? Some people are very much okay with credit cards. Some people are not because of past experiences. How about a budget? We encourage all engaged couples and married couples that we know to make a budget and to stick with it. It's amazing to me that many of the engaged couples we work with, when they come in with their budget, they actually have much more in the expense column than they do have in the income column, and it really gives us a chance to talk about how they're going to make that all work out. Another big issue is checking accounts. How are we going to manage checking accounts when we get married? Will it be yours and mine, or will we have joint accounts? We encourage couples always to have joint accounts. If they have more than one account, that's okay, because some people need that in order to manage their money properly. One account for everyday expenses, one account for the mortgage and the other big bills. Things like that are fine, but some couples use checking accounts as private little accounts for themselves in marriage. And just as anything else in a good marriage, it has to be all in, including money. If you're divided or have your own money, it can really affect other parts of your relationship as well. Then it's just a matter of figuring out what is important to us in life as we go forward. What do we want to spend money on? Is savings and investment for the future important, or are there some needs that we have that are more immediate that we need to deal with first? A couple needs to come into a good agreement on those things so that there isn't stress and arguments and anger over this over and over again throughout their relationships. A few of the engaged couples we've worked with, one time we found that a couple, when we asked them, how much debt do you have going in, the young lady told us that she had $110,000 worth of school and credit card debt that her future spouse was completely unaware of. And so I imagine that opened up a whole new avenue of discussion for them about how are they going to deal with this. Because once you're married, that debt is shared. It belongs to both people now, both legally and morally. It's everyone's issue now. When we talked to another young couple at one time, the young man was quite a bit older than the girl that he was going to marry, maybe by about 12 years, and he had been very frugal in his life and saved a whole bunch of money. I don't know what the amount was, but it sounded like it was a significant amount of money. But he told us when they got married, everything he made from that point on was part of the marriage, but everything he made beforehand was his, and it was not going to be a part of the marriage. And that opened up, naturally, some good avenues of discussion for them to resolve that issue of what's mine and what's ours. We have a question we always ask couples before they leave, and that is, how much money is it okay for me to spend without checking with you? And the variety of answers is just astounding that people come up with. Some people would say, oh, I wouldn't spend $25. Some people would say, well, I would spend $1,000. But so that the couple has a good understanding of how they're going to manage and spend money in life, that's a good question to come into some sort of agreement on. We had some friends in life who the fellow in this relationship decided that it was okay for him to go and spend $90,000 on a piece of property to go hunting on without even checking with his wife. Not the smartest decision he ever made, but they worked through that. We had other couples who, just because one went out and spent $1,500 on a computer, the other thought, well, then I should go out and spend $1,500 on something of my own. So those issues that can be avoided if couples would just take some time and discuss them well. In my own life, in my own marriage, my wife and I were always very careful about the way we manage money and the way we manage credit, but I spent a lot of time at work. I spent a lot of time thinking that my job was to make enough money so we could have a bigger house, that we could have newer cars, that we could have all those things that it seemed like the American dream was all about. I worked sometimes 60, 70, and 75 hours a week in order to attain those. And I would look back at that now and say, what a waste that was, because I missed a lot of life in my own family. I missed a lot of the events that my children were involved in, band concerts and recitals and baseball games and things like that, that I would give anything to go back now and take part in. So the point is, money in marriage needs to be a matter that is discussed well beforehand. It needs to be something that the couple has a very good understanding of and a very good agreement on how it is they're going to manage that in their relationship. A good open discussion beforehand will avoid those pitfalls on money matters in the future.